guys just saw some great startups, I hope.
That's very interesting.
Very interesting. All right. Well, I think most people know Serena, ISAI, and Partech. But let's give the few people that might be from outside town that don't know your funds as well as the rest of us do. So maybe we could start with you, Reza, and we could talk a little bit about what your fund's looking at and doing and what your role is at Partech.
Sure. So Partech is a transatlantic fund. We have offices in Paris, Berlin, and San Francisco. And we basically invest at 3 different stages. We have 3 pockets of money. We can put in money at early stage seed, where we typically put check sizes of $250 to $1 million. We have a venture fund that puts in money at Series A or B, typically $4 to $10 million. And we have a late stage growth equity fund that is going to put in $10 to $40 million. And we have partners in each of the offices. So I'm based out of the San Francisco office. And there's 9 of us, and we have each primarily or mostly an entrepreneurial background, so haven't been on the other side of the table, and tend to look at the fields that we're mostly interested in. So pretty much everything except pharma or medicine or things like that. Okay, great. And Jean-David, tell us a little bit about ISAI.
So ISAI is a relatively new firm because we were launched basically 7 years ago. We are the biggest, what is called entrepreneurs fund in France. When I mean entrepreneurs fund is money raised from entrepreneurs to invest in startups. We basically manage today 160 million euros, out of which 2/3 are coming from entrepreneurs. We are mainly an early stage investor, meaning seed and post-seed investment, and we also have a small cap private equity fund doing owner buyouts or tech growth deals for small caps. We are present in Paris. We back French founders all over the world, and we have a small office led by Paul in New York City.
New York City, great. And Xavier, talk to us a little bit about Serena.
Yeah, so Serena Capital, we're a venture fund based in Paris. We've been funded also by 3 entrepreneurs, like for Partech and ISAI. We invest at all stages, but really where we put our focus is how we can help our portfolio companies. So one way we differentiate is we have an in-house operating team that's really here to help portfolio companies and C-level managers of our portfolio companies on all the operational issues, on marketing, on products, on sales, on HR. We have an HR, for example, in-house HR, helping our portfolio companies. So that's really the way we help portfolio companies developing their business. And what we did recently also, we launched a dedicated fund for AI and big data doing early stage and seed fund, and we were one of the first ones really to focus a fund on this topic.
And that's a great transition, because that was actually my first question for you. What was Serena's goal with that development of a strictly AI-focused fund?
I think there were multiple goals. The first one was that we saw that AI and data was a real disruption, and that it will apply to all industries. It's just not like a pure technology. It's really a disruption in the way you can address problems and solve problems for big corporates, and also in the way you structure your software and your solution. I mean, you have to build your solution in a different way if you want to use data than you used to do before for CRM or marketing, for example. And the second thing also, we saw that a lot of these startups, they were mainly technology-driven. And one of the challenges that they have is how we can help them to build a real product from this technology. So we thought that we had some expertise, being ourselves entrepreneurs and having our operating team to help these startup companies to build a product out of the technology. So that's the main 2 drivers why we decided to launch a fund dedicated to AI and data.
I think that's really interesting. And you know, if I understand correctly, Jean-David, about 25% of your investments are AI focused. So are you looking at developing your own fund around AI, similar to Serena, or what's your strategy behind that?
You know, at ISAI, we basically back business models we know. And basically, there are basically 3 of them. One is a marketplace, the second is SaaS, and the third one is more like ad tech, I would say, as a generic word. And it happens that both in SaaS and ad tech, AI is a growing thing, basically. And we started with marketing companies like Tiny Clues, and I think David was presenting it yesterday. As he told us, you know, he won't kill anybody with email. So even with not good AI product, that was okay. Last investment we made was in cardiologs. Jan was sitting here a few seconds ago, and it's about, you know, cardiology and heart disease detection, much more serious stuff. But both of these companies are basically SaaS companies, and that's basically the way we look at it. So we don't expect to set up a dedicated fund. We think we will have AI inside portfolio companies because of the technology trend.
Great. And so Reza, you know, you guys are in a unique position too. You've got offices in 3 different geographic locations. You know, when Paul reached out to me about France's AI about 2 years ago, he really wanted to put France on the forefront of the AI space. Have you seen a change? What's happening? You know, how France is being viewed in different parts of the world, in Silicon Valley and Berlin? Is that happening, or do we still have a lot of work to do?
I'd say it's both. I think a lot of changes happened, but I still think there's a long road to go to kind of get the recognition for the brand that it deserves as a country. But definitely, you know, one of the key things with AI is that it's fundamentally math problems. And France has an amazing educational system with math. And so I think the French talent is very well recognized there. And you see now, you know, basically I would say boatloads of French mathematicians or engineers coming over to Silicon Valley, and they are recognized for that. You know, one of the last presenters was mentioning that it's hard for a Silicon Valley recruiter to recognize a French talent. That's changed. French schools are now getting more and more known. And so I think there's definitely this wave of AI is helping the French brand because it puts forefront the value we have in our educational system.
I think that's what we all want to hear. And I think, you know, you 3 are very well positioned to answer this next question because, you know, I would say 4 or 5 years ago, a startup would pitch their product, and even if they did have some AI, they wouldn't necessarily say it because they didn't want to seem, you know, like they were thinking too far into the future. And today, every single startup has AI, right? Like everyone is using AI in some way, at least that's what they're saying. How do you get through the hype and maybe just the BS? Like what are you looking for to say, yes, this is actual AI and this is actually going to drive value through, you know, the algorithms that they developed?
It's a good question because you're right. I mean, every startup right now is putting the word AI in this presentation, even if they're not doing it. And most of the time, they don't understand what it means, which is interesting. But the way we're going to look at it is, first, we're going to look at the team and the technical background of the team. Then we're also going to ask them where they stand in terms of the algorithm, were they able to access specific set of data to train their algorithm. So we're going to ask more specific questions regarding the validity and the pertinence of our algorithm, really to understand if they bring value. And then the last question, which is important, is what problem they're solving. Because most of the time, again, it's a technology. They're not really solving a real problem. So then we have to figure out what will be the go-to-market. And are we really going to change the world, or are we going really to hit a big market with this solution?
Would you agree or have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I would add to that one thing that matters a lot to me is, you know, what is the set of data or the problem space that they're focused on. And I think Yann is a great example, and we're lucky to be co-investors here with Jean-David in Cardiologs. The algorithm is great, but it is actually going after a well-known problem with a very limited set of vocabulary. So as a result of it, you can actually train the model in a way from which you can get results pretty quickly. And in a very pertinent way. So I think that really matters a lot. I think you can have a great algorithm, but if it's not solving a problem or if it's impossible to actually train because your data set is too generic, then it's not going to help.
Trying to be incremental, but I fully agree with these 2 gentlemen. I think some of what is called today AI will clearly commoditize, and we will be a non-event if you introduce such technology into a solution. The value will, the remaining value or the value that will have to be created will be about the full stack that startups are able to put together, meaning data collection, obviously algorithm, and then integration with a real business need. And all of these will create value. And obviously, it's a difficult play because it's a multidisciplinary play. If you take the example of cardiologs talking about it again, you need both cardiologists and data scientists to work together,
right.
IT people and medical people to work together. That kind of multidisciplinary setup will probably be the most creative, value creative stuff in this industry, at least for VC-backed startups.
Well, I think that's probably a perfect place to stop, because if you're a startup in the room and you're looking to be getting some funding here in the near future, you just had some clear examples of what you should be talking about and being able to answer. You all have a hard decision now to figure out who's going to win the competition. So I'm going to let you move over to the next room and start talking about that. So thank you all very much. Thank you, and we're going to move on to the next round.
Thank you.